Bridgerton men might have good looks and sweet romantic gestures, but some of them had many red flags, which will be used to rank them from the worst character to the best one. And you definitely would be surprised to find out who tops the list. From season 1 of Bridgerton to the latest and even Queen Charlotte, we've seen lots of gentlemen and their attitude to the women they were interested in or married to. And the worst of them all stands to be Baron Nigel Burbrook for how he desperately tried to court Daphne. And that makes the punch he received from Daphne very worth it. Then he's followed by Lord Herman Danbury, who was very selfish and took the glory for everything Lady Danbury made happen. Aside from not respecting his wife's opinions, he also lacks in looks and his steamy duties as a man. Lord Ledger also made it into the list. Even though he was a good man, he still cheated on his wife without feeling remorseful about it. In an era where an affair was a major scandal that could ruin the reputation of the families involved, his actions with Lady Danbury could have caused more harm than good. Viscount Anthony Bridgerton is another highly rated character in the franchise, especially for his romance with Kate and how he went from an average look to being very handsome in season 2. Fans didn't care much for Anthony in season 1 as their eyes were mainly on the main characters. Another reason why Anthony was overlooked in season 1 is because he had a very hideous look with his hair and sideburns. So all he was remembered for at the time was that he was a protective elder brother, but that changed during his season when the sideburns were let go of and a more attractive haircut was given to him. So Anthony looked exactly like the perfect romantic hero that he is, as more of his physical appearance was put on display. Still, you will be shocked to find out the many reasons why Anthony is far from being at the top of the list. The Viscount was a very stubborn person who made a lot of mistakes, which isn't surprising because he was a rake before meeting Kate. As a player, he had a loyal mistress, Sienna, whom he had promised to look after, but there wasn't a follow-up on that as he just broke up with her and moved on as a married man. Before he even got married, he was literally annoying by insisting on marrying Edwina despite his love for Kate. Even though Daphne and Violet called him out to be certain he didn't marry the wrong person, he still went ahead to propose to Edwina while Kate watched it all happen. As a gentleman who already knew he was in love with Kate, Anthony was meant to call off the engagement, but he didn't. He also told Kate he wouldn't be able to keep his honor if she was around after getting married to Edwina, which is really crazy. So he was so wicked that he would have married Edwina and made the innocent girl suffer in her marriage despite the clear signs and warnings. Both Kate and Edwina didn't deserve what he made them go through. Immediately after Edwina figured out what was going on during their wedding and called it off, Anthony still ended up kissing Kate in that same venue, which is disrespectful to Edwina's feelings. Honestly, the plot may have worked for their enemy to lovers story, but Anthony isn't the man people really want him to be. As if breaking Edwina's heart wasn't enough, he went ahead to invite Kate into his bed without officially courting or marrying her. Although they were driven by passion, let's not forget it's the same Anthony who wanted to destroy Simon for kissing Daphne before marriage. So going ahead to put Kate into a more scandalous situation with everything the Sharmas have been through was a selfish move. It was also Anthony who ruined Benedict's love for art by paying for his way into his desired academy till Benedict dropped out with the thought that he wasn't qualified enough without his family's money. The only man who can rank next to Anthony in the Bridgerton franchise is none other than the Duke of Hastings, Simon Basset. As best friends, they were both players with lots of mistresses before love came their way, and that was why Anthony didn't want him to be with his sister, because they were literally the same person. However, Simon might be one of the greatest male characters in the Bridgerton franchise, with a handsome face to go with it. Till now, many Bridgerton fans still miss Simon dearly because he was the exact description of the clean-cut, graceful, and attractive face that people picture in romantic books. Also, Simon didn't need any glow-up as he was a noble gentleman and the most eligible bachelor of his season with no lack of anything. And and if Bridgerton men get to be ranked on their looks, Simon would have a place at the top. But despite such a good-looking face, the character wasn't perfect either, as stubbornness was another factor that almost ruined him and his relationship with Daphne. Simon had no intention of marrying Daphne even though he loved her and was willing to engage in a gun duel with Anthony and didn't mind passing away while at it, which was a very cruel thing to do. If it wasn't for the kissing scandal and how the gun duel turned out, Simon would have insisted on not marrying Daphne. The Duke is just not the romantic icon everyone thinks he is, because even after they got married and the honeymoon phase ended, he continued to lie to Daphne that he couldn't father a child while always spilling his seeds away from her whenever they were involved in a spicy act together. Poor Daphne was more confused than ever because she didn't know how things like that work, but instead of finding comfort in her and starting a whole new family line, he was willing to perish based on the oath he made with his father to discontinue his generation. Although we got to see the pain he went through as a child and how the whole issue was resolved later on, Simon was just a stubborn character whose title and good looks overshined his terrible attitude. King George in Queen Charlotte comes above the season 1 and 2 Bridgerton stars because he was charming and didn't force Charlotte to accept him as her husband. He didn't even have to, as his good looks worked for him instead. Before he officially met Charlotte, people avoided talking about him to her, which made her assume the worst about him because he could be a troll or a beast, as Charlotte put it. Despite Charlotte's doubts and her plans to escape and make a run for it, he eventually showed up, and their first meeting was a cute one that showed a beautiful love story was about to begin, but that ended up not happening immediately. Also, we later realized it was Charlotte's brother and George's mother who made the arrangement happen. But while Charlotte faced problems with his brother, who forced her hand, George didn't want her involved in his mental issues, which is the only thing he did wrong. His flaw was refusing to have anything to do with his wife for a very long time, to hide his illness based on the orders of his doctor and his mother. However, we discovered hiding his true self from Charlotte and living in a separate house from her wasn't something he enjoyed, as he so much wished he could do more for her. And whenever he was in his right senses, he would compliment and praise Charlotte repeatedly, which is the reason why they had such great chemistry and gave birth to many children even though he was sick. So apart from his challenges, George was a great lover. Lord Debling, who joined the show recently, is actually better than some of the previous men mentioned because he doesn't fool around, lie, or diminish people for who they are. Also, he has a rare form of beauty, which is new to the Bridgerton world, with his blonde hair that could pass for a Valyrian. He also had some unusual passion for wildlife, animals, and plants, which was a fun topic, especially when Penn and Cressida wanted to make an impression with their knowledge of these things. And you know what's even more adorable about Lord Debling? He listened to them both and gave them attention whenever necessary. He was also a gentleman through and through for coming to the rescue of Penn when she was panicking about the balloon knocking her down. Since he came into the society, he immediately made his intention known that he was in need of a wife and told anyone interested that he would always be away on his travels. Truly, no lady would want an absent husband, but at least he didn't sugarcoat any of these, so any lady who doesn't mind could take up his offer. Funnily enough, Lord Debling was so honest to the point where he point blank told Penn he wasn't in love with her, but admitted a sort of affection could grow between them if they decided to get married. Aside from being honest, Lord Debling is also smart and knows his worth. He wasn't desperate like Nigel or stubborn like Anthony and Simon. Instead, he studied Penelope and also noticed Colin was in love with her. However, he didn't take any action because he thought Penelope didn't reciprocate the feelings. But when he figured out the Bridgertons lived across the street away from the Featheringtons and that Penelope always sat quietly by the window to watch Colin, he knew that Penn loved Colin too. And instead of pursuing marriage with her, he honorably excused himself. He made her know the reason why he wouldn't be proposing, which is so respectful and heroic coming from a man in the Regency era. It's not a new thing for the Bridgerton boys to rake around the ton before they finally settle down, and Benedict is also going through that phase. And with his handsome face, he's constantly able to charm his way through ladies' heart, as he's the only Bridgerton man who's been glowing since day one and might not need a special change during his season. Apart Apart from being attractive, Benedict also has many likable attributes, like his funny remarks and playfulness amongst his siblings, and the way he's always open to learning from others, which was obvious in his dealings with the gay character in the show, Henry Granville. But despite being a rake, he respects all the women he gets involved with. Another thing about Benedict is that he gets drawn to strong and independent women like Madame Delacroix and Lady Tilly, which means he's one of the rare ones who don't judge, but learn to admire people who are doing things differently in society. Also, when he caught Eloise smoking on the swing, he didn't scold her but joined in the smoking, which was surprising. Benedict might be playful, but he was always present, even if he wasn't interested in what was going on. Most importantly, Benedict is an honorable man who wants to get something based on his ability and talent and not buy it through wealth, which is why he declined the Art Academy offer he wanted the most after Anthony intervened. After Benedict comes the Earl of Kilmartin, Lord John Sterling, who has shown the Bridgerton fans that love can be attentive, calm, and peaceful. The first time Lord Kilmartin showed up in the show, it was obvious that he was going to be an important character, especially for his charming looks and how well he understood Francesca. Ever since Francesca came out in society, she has been searching for that particular person who truly sees her, but has failed countlessly in finding one until Lord Kilmartin showed up. So, being exactly the person Francesca needs without wanting to change her or have her talk too much about herself is the main reason why Lord Kilmartin is a highly ranked Bridgerton man. For a socially awkward man, he tried to make up for the small talk by expressing thoughtful gestures, like when he rearranged the musical note for Francesca after she complained about the pace. He also knew he wanted to be with Francesca right away after their brief meeting, so after the night they met, Lord Kilmartin may not have officially introduced himself, but he knew the right places to ask about Francesca, which afforded him the privilege of calling on her the next morning without wasting time. Even though he doesn't say much, he listens and gives, which is exactly the love language Francesca understands. Interestingly, the Bridgerton man at the very top of this list is Colin. Although he's not without his flaws, he is better than many other characters mentioned earlier. He's also had a big transformation from a boy to a man with a sturdy physique and handsome face, and he's the most eligible bachelor in season 3. Aside from this, Colin has matured a lot over the years, especially with the knowledge he has gained from traveling to 17 different cities and experiencing all of those cultures, which has made him more sensitive and open-minded to pick up what his heart was saying earlier in season 3. You could tell he has learned more about society than in the previous seasons from the way he talked and flirted with girls in the show upon his return, but because this wasn't his real self, he didn't take time before adjusting himself. Colin had been a consistent and loyal friend to Penelope for several years, and his only crime was being too clueless to realize his feelings for Pen were beyond friendship and that Pen was clearly into him as well. As a friend to Pen, he never led her on or confused her as to what was going on between them. He was always clear and honest about how they were such great friends, which only hurt Pen because she wanted something more than that. Also, you should know male and female friendship was a very scandalous one in the era, but many things they did were overlooked because they were childhood friends. Hence, everyone thought their relationship was purely harmless, and no one believed this more than Colin. Even when he started realizing that it could be love in season 3, he still had to ask his mother to be sure so he wouldn't compromise Pen or believe in what was impossible. However, when he found out he may have lost Pen to Lord Debling, he had to chase down her carriage to confess his feelings to her, and after their physical exploration of each other, Colin didn't waste time before proposing to her immediately, which is something his brother Anthony struggled with. He may have been clueless for so long, but he wouldn't let Pen face further scandalous moments with him without setting things right, which he did. Also, Violet praised Colin for his selflessness in pleasing others first before himself. Except for how his love story went with Penelope, he's a sensitive person, as he was also the one who went to bring Daphne during the gun duel in season 1 to stop Simon and Anthony from hurting each other.